Hey, good afternoon, and welcome to the Joe Hoff Show. So glad you are here, and happy to be here myself. Lots going on. What a weekend again. It's hard to keep up. I'm actually trying my best to just try to grab the things that I think are important and put them at joehoff.com. So for your service here, and grateful to do so. So I'm trying to just keep up, add to the news, let you know what's going on as best I can. That and this show and whatever we can do to get the word out on the truth. And it's funny. We who share the truth have been targeted and attacked, like good people in Nazi Germany or communist China. We've been attacked ruthlessly by our own government. Ultimately, we find out that the far left monsters have been sending billions, maybe even trillions, frankly, and using it against the American people. This has been a full-on communist attack in America, and there's a battle raging right now. And I remember Alex Jones saying, "Oh, 95% of warfare now is information." It sure is, and we're going to share some of that today in today's show. And it's actually was pointed out to me in Friday's show. We had Charlene Bollinger on, and she talked about this new movie that's coming out. So we're going to share a piece of that that's outstanding. We're going to talk about Bobby Kennedy Jr. Just an incredible video I've watched a number of times this weekend. It just really hit me hard. He talks about just recovery and his personal story, and he says, and this is a great piece. If you know somebody that you love, that you adore, but has a problem with alcohol or drugs, that's just, you can tell they're just being destroyed by it, and you believe that they maybe are open to a message. Well, RFK Jr. Gives this message. We're going to share that in moments here too. So really powerful stuff, and the two connect. Quite frankly, this story about RFK and his what he shares, as well as the following segment that we're going to share from Charlene's new movie, um, are incredible. So that's what grabbed me. There's so much going on. Dan Bongino was just named the assistant, I guess. Is it director, deputy director of the FBI? That was huge. I saw him on air, have a few posts about that up this morning. I know Dan. He's I've met him a few times. I'll just leave it at that. And he's got a wonderful wife and family, as President Trump pointed out last night after the initial message about Dan joining the FBI. So Dan will be working with Kash Patel and Pam Bundy and President Trump. And this morning he mentioned it was President Trump who called him to let him know that, hey, we want you to take this position. So really powerful stuff. And just another, the left keeps getting blasted. Saw a couple pieces this morning too about Bongino, where he's written some books about the deep state, so he knows that stuff pretty well. He knows the bad players. He also has really pointed out Schiff. Some people pointed out his last show on Friday. He mentioned Schiff a few times, and that's pretty interesting. So the last few weeks, Dan said he's been in this process, and now he's able to share about it. And what an honor it was. And so more great Americans jumping on the train. My God, this is just so exciting. It really is. Let's just blast these people. The deep state. Let's just take the machine gun to them and destroy that deep state, with Elon uncovering and stopping the money flow to the deep state that's used against us. It's against our country. It's a communist takeover. Probably billions going directly to China. I'll bet you we'll find that. I'm just saying that for the first time. It just hit me. That's what's going on. We're going to find billions of US dollars funneled directly to China. Mark my words, write that down. February 24th of 25, that's what we're going to find out. Billions and billions of US dollars funneled directly to China by some communists in our government. We're going to find it. That's ultimately what's going on. These people are traitors. They hate America. They've been hating Trump. They tried to imprison Trump. They tried to kill Trump. Now, Now the day's coming, and people like Adam Schiff, you better be worried. You better be worried because you are a monster. Who and all the evidence is there in the public. We've got the evidence already. It's all right there. Multiple crimes. We can all talk. We many of us know them, and so it's going to be a rough time for the deep state. I believe from the inauguration forward. They can't keep up. They can't beat us. You can't stop the truth. You can't bend it. We've been sharing the truth no matter how we get targeted and attacked. It doesn't matter. We've got the truth and God on our side, which is synonymous, I believe. And so, anyways, great things happening. Got an incredible guest coming on later as well. So let's start off the show. Let me share with you this great, brilliant piece of RFK Jr. about his recovery. As many of you know, I'm in recovery as well, and so grateful. And this piece hit me. I think it's just so specific. He talks about God's laws, and every once in a while, God puts his hand through, taps you on the shoulder. Those are the moments. Those are the moments that we live for, where God's there right at the special moment. It's like the touch in that brilliant artwork in the Vatican. That's what God does, and he calls it synchronicity. Watch what Bobby Kennedy has to say here. It's brilliant. Can I hear?
When I was in early recovery is when all of these things started to make sense to me. My Catholic upbringing, all of this confluence of philosophy and theology and self-examination and pain that you go through. We grow through pain. Pain is ultimately the touchstone of spiritual growth. And addicts have a unique opportunity for redemption because they've been to hell. It destroys your life, and it destroys your relationships, and it hurts everybody that you love, and it makes you into a liar. Whenever you're living against conscience, which you're doing if you're addicted, you push God over the periphery of your horizon. So there is a complete disconnection. I feel like I was like a one-dimensional human being, that I was a collection of appetites that needed to be fed all the time, and that becomes a full-time job. When I finally got sober, I came in, with my life wrecked, and I came in on my knees, and I made a decision. I knew I needed a spiritual realignment. And then I picked up this book by Carl Jung called Synchronicity. It was a kind of synchronicity that it was sitting on a table. And the reason I picked it up was because there was an album by The Police that had just been released, and it had the same name, and I didn't know what the word was. So I picked it up out of curiosity. And synchronicity is a coincidence. It's like one of those things that happens to all of us when we start noticing them. It happens more often. An example would be you're talking about somebody who you haven't seen or thought about in 20 years. And the phone rings, and it's that person on the phone. And these little things happen to us all the time, right? And Jung saw those as interventions by God who would reach through the universe and break all of his own rules, the rules of mathematics, arithmetic, of percentages of chance, and of time and space, would reach through and do these little things to touch us on the shoulder and kind of say, I'm here. You're looking at a miracle. And Jung was a deeply spiritual man. Jung began having these very authentic spiritual experiences when he was a kid. And he remembers the dreams that he had and these synchronicities, other authentic spiritual experiences that kind of guided his life in this extraordinary way. What he says is that I can't use empirical tools and scientific tools to prove the existence of a God, but that I can prove that, having seen tens of thousands of patients come through his hospital, that people who believe in God get better faster and that their recovery is more durable and enduring. And for me, reading that was much more impactful than if he had said that he had proven the existence of a God, which I would not have believed.
Right.
What he was saying was, it's irrelevant if there's a God up there or not. If you believe in one, your chances of living a healthier life and of recovery are better, and it's an easier path. And at that point in my life, I had made a vow that I would do anything at all, if it increased my chance of recovery by even 1%. But I made a decision. I'm going to start believing in God because it's going to improve my chance of recovery. And then I'm confronted with the dilemma of how do you start believing in something that you can't see or smell or touch or taste or hear or acquire with your senses. And Jung solves that problem by saying, fake it till you make it. Act as if. And he said, the faith will precede the evidence, that there will be evidence that will be overwhelming. I immediately, while I was reading this book, I said, okay, this is the answer. So I'm just going to start pretending there's a God up there, that he's looking at me all the time, and that life is kind of a test, and that, we're supposed to do the right thing, and I'm supposed to behave myself even when I don't have an audience, so even when nobody's watching me. The day I finished that book, I went out on a volleyball field. I was playing volleyball, and somebody hit the ball on a very, very powerful punch. It went way up, and then it came down and hit the top of the post, and it made this errant flight back up again. And as it was relaunching, I said, so that everybody on the field heard me, I said, that ball is going to get hit by a Mack truck. I don't know why I said that. I have no idea, but everybody heard me say it. And the ball went up and landed on a chain link fence, and then it bounced on the other side, and it rolled down about 40 yards into a main thoroughfare, and this giant 18-wheel diesel came by and popped it with just a resounding pop. And everybody looked at me for a second, or like, wow, how'd you do that? Oh, at that point, I had just finished this book about synchronicity. And I was like, okay, I can either just dismiss that the way that I would as a weird coincidence, or I can just say that, this is God's way of talking to me, and I'm going to accept that, and I'm going to accept the beauty of it.
Let that soak in for a minute. Holy smokes, is that powerful? I tell you what, I was at with a meeting with a group of people years ago, and this lady spoke, and she said, sometimes things happen, and they're more than coincidence. She says, I wouldn't really call them miracles, but she said, I call them God works. And she says, I've had a lot of those since really finding recovery. I haven't forgot that. It's like from 40 years ago. And it coincides with what we're hearing Bobby Kennedy Jr. say. It's these God reaching through all his formulas, everything, and touching us and just giving us this little blessing here and then that we all long for. And all we have to do is really sit back, relax, know God's there, and just let it happen. And it's tough to do sometimes. Life is really tough, but it's what a magnificent, really that's really one of the most powerful summaries I've ever heard. I believe I'm going to send Sage Steele, who was the interviewer there, formerly from ESPN. I think she got let go because she stood up against whatever, either Black Lives Matter or COVID or whatever. But now she's a hero, and that was an incredible interview. That was really one of the greatest interviews I've ever heard. God bless Bobby Kennedy and the job he has now in front of him. We're all wanting him to succeed for the better of America, our families, and the world. So big tasks ahead of us, a lot of work. So another piece that I wanted to show this morning and this afternoon, depending on where you're at, is this video that comes from Charlene Bollinger. She's got this new movie out, and it's called Unpacking the Lives We've Been Fed. And it talks about food. There's a strong connection to Bobby Kennedy in this. And the ironic thing is that she talks about this guy who was really the mastermind behind propaganda. Even before the Nazis maybe where Ed even started it. This guy was into it, and he happens to be Carl Jung's nephew, as we'll show you in this segment. And this is a lot about what Charlene talks about. We've been force fed misinformation for years. And so watch this clip from her movie. And yeah, you can go out there and get it. Go to joehoff.com. You can see how to watch the movie in its entirety. It's free. So, anyways, take a look at this. This is really some powerful stuff.
The wizard behind the curtain of manipulation was a man who coined the phrase public relations because the word propaganda just left a bad taste in the consumer's mind.
My next guest is a truly fascinating gentleman. He happens to be 93 years old, and he is the father of public relations. In the course of his 70-year career, some of his clients have been Presidents Wilson, Hoover, Coolidge, and Eisenhower, Thomas Edison, Eleanor Roosevelt, and Enrico Caruso. It's a pleasure to welcome Dr. Edward Bernays.
The wizard, at the age of 93, opened the curtain to share with us his secret to success.
All right, now, Doctor, tell me again what the doctor is. What are we dealing with here? You're the father of public relations.
What we're dealing with really is the concept that people will believe me more if you call me doctor.
Oh, I see.
Edward Bernays had a doctorate, but not in medicine. His expertise was psychological warfare, and his mission wasn't to heal society, but to shape it with propaganda.
Intelligent men must realize that propaganda is the modern instrument by which they can fight for productive ends and help to bring order out of chaos.
Bernays was born in Vienna, Austria in 1891. He was the nephew of famed psychoanalyst Sigmund Freud and deeply studied and promoted his work. Bernays touted the idea that the masses are driven by factors outside their conscious understanding, and therefore that their minds can and should be manipulated by the capable few.
There are invisible rulers who control the destinies of millions. It is not generally realized to what extent the words and actions of our most influential public men are dictated by shrewd persons operating behind the scenes.
During World War I, Bernays was hired directly by the US government to create what he referred to as psychological warfare, to combat growing anti-war sentiments at home and abroad. It was in this role that Bernays realized his practice of propaganda could be used in peacetime.
When I got back from the war, I recognized that ideas could be as important weapons as anything.
It has as its target not the body, but the mind of the enemy.
And were even more effective than bullets.
His first target post-war was the All-American Breakfast. Bernays was hired by the Beechnut Packing Company to increase their sales of bacon. Most Americans ate a small light breakfast and barely consumed pork. So Bernays enlisted the backing of 4,000 doctors to endorse his new breakfast menu.
If you don't like bacon and you're interested in your health, as 4,000 doctors say that you better eat bacon, you do it.
Bernays simply defined, marketed, and educated the public what a hearty breakfast should look like, and then had the doctor's report published nationally.
Bacon and eggs and buttered toast. There's nothing like a good, healthy breakfast to start the day off right.
Today, 70% of bacon is eaten at breakfast. Next on the agenda for Edward Bernays' social transformation was his groundbreaking 1929 Torches of Freedom campaign. George Washington Hill, the president of the American Tobacco Company, realized the potential market that could be found in women and said,
We have a problem. We're losing half the market in America because there is a taboo against women smoking, particularly smoking in the streets.
Bernays had to change public opinion and eliminate the social taboo against women smoking in public. He gained advice from psychoanalyst A. Brill.
He said cigarettes to women are torches of freedom, and then he added as an afterthought, and they titillate the erogenous zones of the lips.
That's just a small segment from Charlene's new movie. Again, you can see it. It's free. I've got a link at joehoff.com. It's one of the top stories. Brilliant. I couldn't believe how I see Jung mentioned in Bobby Kennedy's piece, and then him mentioned again in this piece by the nephew of Carl Jung. And pretty amazing stuff, really, really amazing, enlightening. So I can't wait to see the rest, but I thought you'd enjoy that. So we're going to take a quick break. We've got an incredible guest with us, somebody I've never met before, but I can't wait to hear a story. And he's an American hero now, as all of these January 6ers are. So we'll have with us right after this Joe Biggs. We'll be right back. Hi, this is Joe Hoft. Are you looking for monthly income without the risk of stocks? Here's something you won't hear about on CNBC. There's a unique way to collect royalties directly from America's most productive oil fields. No exploring, drilling, or operational headaches. You simply collect checks month after month. The best part? You can get started with just $25 through any brokerage account. The Oxford Club's chief income strategist, Mark Lechtenfeld, breaks down what he believes is the #1 loyalty play for 2025. Visit HoftOilBoom.com now to learn more. That's HoftOilBoom.com, HoftOilBoom.com. Stop buying oil stocks and start collecting oil royalty checks now instead.
In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act.
As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage.
We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle.
Hi, I'm Joe, Supreme Leader of DCF. What is DCF, you ask? We're the best damn sandwich shop in the universe. Do we sell hoagies? Well, we're DCF, and the F doesn't stand for hoagies. We got 9mm sandwiches, we got beastly baguettes, and we toast buns like no other. Looking for training on bun safety? We got you covered, and our Rangers are the best place to test out your new Not sandwich. So get your buns out, cause the sun's out, and let's party! We're not actually a sandwich shop.
Hey, we're back. This is Joe Hoff. Thanks for supporting all of those individuals that support us. We appreciate you doing that. This is how we stay in business and how we keep giving you the truth. So Thank you for your support as well. So without any further ado, I do want to introduce our guest today. We've got a lot of questions for him. Can't wait to hear from him. He's an American hero. His name's Joe Biggs, and he was a January 6er and was went through hell because of that. Joe, welcome to the Joe Hoff Show.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you being here. So, we're talking a little bit offline about CPAC, et cetera. Before we jump into that, why don't you tell us a bit of your story? What led up to January 6th and even then what happened after, if you don't mind.
Well, let's see. Shortly after 9/11, I joined the Army. I was in Iraq and Afghanistan, spent 2 years in combat in each area, was awarded multiple citations, Purple Hearts, things like that. Um, I saw a lot of stuff. Met a reporter named Michael Hastings who was embedded in my unit. Was mysteriously killed after covering General McChrystal, and his car blew up in Hollywood. When he was in bed with me, he said that, Joe, you're really good on camera. You should look at getting in the media if you ever do get out of the military. And I did. After I got hurt, I was blown up and received kind of like my last warning from the military, like, hey, you've been hurt too many times and it's probably about time for you to pack it up. So I was medically retired, and that led to me working with Alex Jones. And then from there, having a child, moving back home to Florida to take care of my family, joining the Proud Boys. And then January 6th happened, and here I am.
Wow. Wow. So initially, how were you introduced to the Proud Boys? What happened? By the way, I saw this video of Enrique confronting a couple of those nasty Capitol policemen this weekend. A couple of these guys that got pardoned by Biden. I thought it was brilliant. I'm so glad he's saying some of these guys. Calling them traitors really shocked them. They couldn't believe somebody would say that to them. It was amazing. Anyway, sorry. How
Yeah,
did you
so
join the Proud Boys and how'd that happen?
So originally, I was introduced to them when I was working with Alex Jones at InfoWars. I would see guys like Gavin McGinnis, Enrique. Enrique wasn't, the leader of the group at that point. He was just like anyone else there. And him and I became friends. I kind of latched on to a few of the guys that I would see come out to Austin a lot to do the show and work with us and come on the air, and we became friends. And they asked me about joining. I actually kind of went through some of the process there in Austin, Texas, one night at a bar, and I tried to link up with the group in Austin. I didn't really like the PB group there in Austin. They weren't really my style. But when I did get out of InfoWars because of my child and moved back to Florida, I met up with the local chapter here, and I really got along with those guys. A lot of them, alpha types, former police, military guys, kind of guys I'm used to being around. So I really fit in with them, and I kind of went full steam ahead from there. I still had my relationship with Enrique, Ethan, Ordine, and others like that, Zachary Rill. And then that kind of morphed as I became more of a permanent role within the Proud Boys, and then kind of moved into a national role, helping plan different rallies like the end domestic terrorism in Portland, and rallies in Boston and all over the country that became really wildly successful. Um, you just look at my body of work. Every event that I've ever actually planned, there has been no violence. I've done everything I can to keep that from happening. That way, the optics aren't bad. We were just watching a video about Edward Bernays, someone that I definitely look up to in the propaganda world, as far as someone who knows how to really, use their mind to convey certain things and to get people to think a certain way without having to, lay a finger on someone. That's kind of what I take out of propaganda, is to use Jedi mind tricks to keep there from being any type of physical altercation. Because once you have that, the story's lost. Whatever message you try to go and purvey, or whatever, thing you try to get across to the American people, goes out the window as soon as fists are thrown and people start to fight. So that's always kind of been a main objective of mine when planning these rallies, was to keep violence down, to use these Jedi mind tricks and propaganda to trick the enemy into thinking we're at other places. So they would go there and crash an empty parking lot while we're over there doing something else and being successful and getting our point across. So, that's kind of how that all started.
Wow, that's amazing. I first heard about Proud Boys, working with Jim at the Gateway Pundit and And I thought it was brilliant. I was tired to see these Americans, especially Trump supporters. I don't know if you remember that 2016 campaign. They once marched all these Trump supporters right through this mob of people in like San Jose, California. This lady gets blasted by eggs in the face. She's trapped against a door, and these monsters are attacking an innocent woman. We've seen women attacked, young boys attacked, and they were beaten and kicked and I, by the way, I think they were all paid off by the deep state, by the Democrat Party, probably with our tax money and U.S. aid. Now that we, looking back, but so when the Proud Boys came out, I thought, man, this is great. There's some people there that are going to, protect Trump supporters basically from these attacks from Antifa and other groups where really people were dying, especially Black Lives Matter comes along. People are getting killed. And so I thought you guys were heroes. I really did. I thought, and I stand by that. Americans and Trump supporters were getting beaten bloodied, knocked out, maybe even killed at various events. And you guys say, no, we're gonna protect these people. And yeah, that's brilliant that you would do things like not even have to have violence. You send the left over here, the Antifa over here. You guys just go ahead with your rally. Brilliant strategy. So, anyways, I just thought it was great. And
Yeah, it needed to happen. I mean, too many people were concerned with playing politics. Too many people were concerned about appeasing leftist politicians who had these radical progressive ideas that, it's really not even about protecting Trump supporters. It's about protecting anyone who thinks differently than them. Anyone who thinks differently than them is a Trump supporter, regardless if you don't like Trump or if you just like Rand Paul or Ron Paul or, they love Black Lives Matter or they love Black lives until Black lives don't support the progressive ideas they do, then those Black lives don't matter. People are too scared to talk about the truth. The number one killer of Black lives are other Black people. There's so much disinformation that happens from the left, but that's what they do. They project whenever the left is attacking you for something. It's what they're doing wrong. It's what they're scared of. It's what they are trying to avoid being caught doing. And therefore, anyone that they know that stands up for what's true and right, they want to have thrown in prison because these are the ones that are the biggest threat to them because they know that what they're doing, if it were to be exposed, could lead to major jail time. So, for 4 years, they had, some of the only people willing to stand up and actually fight for this country thrown in prison. And they were given free reign to run around and just do this abhorrent anti-American communist BS. And that time has come to an end finally. Thank God people came to their senses. It's almost better, that we had to go through what we did. It sucks that I had to spend 4 years in jail. But if Trump would have won that last election, and I mean, not saying that he didn't win, but if he would have actually gotten to be in the White House for the last 4 years, I don't think he would have had anywhere near the power or the ability to change America fundamentally that he does now. If he would have gotten in then, that he does now. America had to go through this and suffer through this and see just how bad it could be under this type of lackluster leadership for people to really respect someone that's going to come in there and actually do the right thing and yank chairs out from under people that just shouldn't be sitting at the table. I'm glad that we have Tulsi Gabbard in there, and I'm glad that we have Kash Patel, and I hope that Bongino does a good job. I hope that these men and women that are that Trump's getting in there are gonna actually for once push that America First agenda, and let's focus on our country. Let's get tax dollars supporting Americans and not Israel and freaking
China,
Gaza and
yeah.
everywhere else, all these other countries that just don't have anything to do with America. Doesn't mean that I don't care about other people. It just means that I think we have homeless veterans that need to be taken care of. We've got individuals right now that can't put food on the table. Let's get America straightened out before we even go and look in other directions.
Yeah, amen, amen. I 100%. And Yeah, I think you guys were fighting against communists. I heard somebody really big say this, that you'll be surprised how many communists are in our government. We saw Bill Barr sit back. We saw, during the whole term, he should have been, cracking down on all those protests for whatever reason he was allowing it to happen. And that's not how you run a country. That was unreal. That was just unbelievable stuff. How Trump was set up so bad last time. And he learned from that. And I agree with what you're saying too. Maybe we had to go through it, but that was really painful for all of us. I mean, you say the truth, you share the truth. We were under attack every day too from the left, whether it be shadow banning. And I didn't have to go to prison, thank the Lord Jesus, but we were getting, everything else coming at us. So that
What
that was
doesn't
the
kill you
price.
makes you stronger. What
Yeah, I
doesn't kill you
know.
makes you stronger. And it's,
Yeah, there you go.
like I said, I hate everything that I've had to go through, but at the same time, it really removed a veil from my eyes. It took the blindfold away, and I'm able to see this world for what it truly is, and the people in this government that have pretended to care. And for the people, I used to think that some of these people that I saw at CPAC this past week actually cared, and they've been talking this big game, and then you go up there and they don't really care at all. They ask for your phone number and they go, "Man, I really want to help you." And then you go, "Hey, man, can you help me?" And they go, "It's crickets. There's no one there." They
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
want to respond, instead,
yeah.
but they'll throw money at all these other people out there that really don't care about anything. As
Mm.
long as you're there to make them more famous
Yeah.
and help them grift, then that's all they care about.
Right. I agree. I agree. So stepping back though, what happened on January 6th? I mean, what you were you even there? I don't know. Some of these guys weren't even there and get arrested. What was your story?
Well, so Enrique wasn't there. He was the only one. Me, Ethan Ordine, were the ones that were kind of left in charge for that day. We were uh, met at the Washington Monument, right behind the Ellipse, behind the White House in that area. It's a big obelisk out there, right off the National Mall, right, a couple miles from the Capitol. At 10 a.m., we met there with the Proud Boys and other men and started marching down the mall towards the Capitol. We didn't want to sit there and do other stuff. So we went to go check on some of these other events like the Latinas for Trump and things like that, because we know that in history that like we said before, that Antifa and BLM have shown up at these events and assaulted these people who are just there trying to hang out and have a good time. They're not there bothering anybody, but for some reason, Antifa feels like it's their right to show up to our events and assault people and throw eggs and shoot people and drive them over. And for some reason, the police have allowed it to happen over and over again. And then they wonder why it takes a group called the Proud Boys to come in and actually restore some type of security and normalcy and safety to these events. So we went out there to do something that the DC Metro Police and others wouldn't do, was to make sure that patriotic, loving, American loving people weren't going to be attacked. So we headed down that way towards the Capitol. We marched around with film crews, documentary film crews that all knew who we were. Um, the prosecutor said that I was a criminal mastermind and used my military skills and propaganda skills to overthrow the government. But why would I bring a film crew along with me to go and overthrow the government and film all of our faces and then show exactly what it is we're doing and how we're doing it? And then why would the criminal mastermind in me, so to say, not bring weapons and tell everybody not to bring weapons? The only thing I told people that they should bring are the stab-proof vest, because in the month prior, leading up to January 6th, we had multiple individuals in DC get stabbed by a BLM protester. So we decided that this time we would show up and wear these stab-proof vests. That's what I was caught with. That's what the FBI found on my person, which was a stab-proof vest. I wasn't wearing Kevlar body armor. I wasn't dressed for war. I didn't have an AR-15 or an AK-47. I didn't have satellite comm links with a tactical operations center and men stacked up in formations ready to go and breach the different doors around the Capitol. We didn't have explosives or anything like that. We walked around, took a picture on one side of the Capitol, met up with another group of Trump supporters, checked on them, make sure they were doing good, started leaving, went back to some food trucks right outside the federal courthouse in DC. I sat in the road, ate some chicken fingers. I heard Trump over the radio announced that his rally was coming to an end, and he told everybody to go to the Capitol, that he was thinking about going up there. Well, as that's happening, we're looking up and we see a sea of people coming across the mall, and they're marching off in the distance, going towards the Capitol. Well, around 2 or 2:30, I can't remember the exact time, we were supposed to be linking up back at Ethan Ordine's Airbnb to meet up with Michael Graves. He is the former lead singer of the Misfits. He was going to do a private show for us and the Proud Boys, and we were going to have like a fun little party that day, and then come back out at night. Never once in any conversation that we ever had, and that can be easily proven because the FISA courts were used against us, the same courts that were used to spy on anyone else that the U.S. government hasn't liked. The same people that, the same stuff that they used to spy on Osama bin Laden was turned on us. The full the full eyes and ears of the NSA, Interpol, everything. So they had access to all of our messages. Not one time in any message was there ever the words capital said, or storming, or insurrection, or we got to take over the government, or anything like that. Nothing like that was ever said. So we're sitting there and we just see this group of people going to the Capitol. We go, okay, let's go check this out real quick. We got a little bit of time before we got to be back and meet Michael at the Airbnb. Let's head over there. And looking back, I guess that's the worst thing that I ever did, because we walked over there and all these feds are sitting there in the crowd. We don't know that they're all embedded in the crowd. They're breaking the fence down. The crowd surges forward, and everything's kind of, intense for a second right there. But the most of the crowd, like us, we didn't even know that this all had just happened at that bike rack. Like, I couldn't see that happen. I was so far back that all I saw were a sea of people moving forward. So to me, it was this very organic, natural thing that just happened. They're bike racks. They could have just been moved by the police, and we could have been told that, Trump was coming up. So we decided, hey, we'll start heading up that way. So we're just kind of going through and marching up, and we get close to the Capitol. And next thing you know, everybody's sitting there at this fence. And this is where the inauguration stage is. This whole stage is getting put up already on January 6th for January 20th. They do this every 4 years. That stage has nothing to do with the Capitol itself. The little fence that's there is a fence. It's a prop used to help separate people that have like different VIP access for the inauguration. So that fence has nothing to do with Capitol security whatsoever. So everybody gets to this fence and they're sitting there and there's flags being waved. Well, the Capitol Police lieutenant or whatever, I believe, comes out and orders the police to start shooting into the crowd. So what do you think's going to happen? You go and poke a bear, you go kick a hornet's nest. Don't start crying and going, oh my God, I'm the victim. When I start seeing 260-pound cops in riot gear just straight knocking like 55, 60-year-old women out. They're just punching women in the crowd. People are getting shot through the face with these what they call anti-lethal rounds, which aren't very anti-lethal. They start launching flashbangs and 9-bangers and all these different distortion devices into the crowd, and they antagonize everybody.
That's it.
And then
that's it. I'm hearing, if you want to, if you're in that situation, you're a policeman, you're trying to de-escalate. You're not trying to create a freaking bomb. And these guys did the absolute opposite. You see the guy stand up there shooting people with rubber bullets like like he's hunting or something, just bashing people. The thing that grabs me here, let me ask you this question. I don't know why it's coming to my head, and I've wondered about this. Do you think all those people dressed as Capitol policemen were Capitol policemen? Do you think there's a possibility they were maybe inserted as well, like the feds? I mean,
from what I've seen, anything is possible. I mean, I've never even thought about that. But, there were a lot of people in the crowd, during our trial, my trial that I was in with Ethan Ordine, Dominic Pizzola, Zachary Real, Enrique Tarrio, was the longest trial in DC history, the biggest case in American history. We had the most discovery ever in the USA, far out surpassing any investigation on Al Capone or any other terrorist organization or anything like that. They threw everything at us, and there was nothing that pointed in that entire trial that we planned or incited any type of violence or tried to overthrow the government. Instead, the only case the government could make to piss off the jury was to play random acts of violence at riots all over the country that were perpetrated by BLM or Antifa, and then which we defended ourselves after firstly being attacked. And then they used that edited these videos. They carefully edited
Yeah.
to make it look like we started these fights.
They should be
to piss-
arrested for doing that.
Yeah.
They should be arrested. Did you ever go in the Capitol?
Yes. I walked in the Capitol, it was wide open. And let me tell you how scared the cop was when I walked up to him. His arms are folded. He's wearing a white uniform. And he goes, "Hey, sir, how are you doing?" That's how scared he is. And I go, "Well,"
Yeah.
I said, "to be honest, there was a porta john out there. I really need to go urinate."
Yeah.
The cops came up and we walked up to it and put a chain around it and wouldn't allow us to go up there because we were the Proud Boys. "Hey, is there a bathroom I could use?" And the cop escorts me to the bathroom, all frightened with his arms crossed, not trying to grab a weapon or call for backup. That's how scared he is, and walks us to the bathroom. And then I leave. And then only after I leave the first time, I realize that one of my friends is there with me. So I go back in through an open door while the cops are sitting there with their arms crossed. They watch me walk by, and I go right back in. I go look around for a few minutes, can't find him, and go back outside.
No, it was not a crime to walk in that building. There was no signage. There was nothing there. There's no crime to walk up to that building. There was no signage, nothing. They tried to claim you guys trespassed. That was BS. They tried to claim you guys interfered with official acts. That was BS. The whole thing's BS. It's unbelievable. The criminals were the people that were the prosecutors, if you ask me. By the way, I find out one guy may have even been a prosecutor on your trial, was James Comey's son-in-law. I don't know if you know that. I
What was the
wrote
name?
about this guy. I got it. I'll have to send it to you. But I wrote about him. I said, man, like father, like son. I'm hoping he got let go by the rest of with the rest of these prosecutors here recently from the DOJ that got let go.
Well, the
But yeah,
original prosecutor for the AUSA that was over our case quit before the trial started because he didn't want any part of it. And then they brought in Jason McCullough. Jason McCullough that took lead on that. The lady that was over that team is friends with Judge Kelly, who was over our case. And Judge
yeah,
Kelly used to be
outrageous.
over that team of prosecutors, and his wife worked for Mayor Muriel Bowser. So it's like this huge,
No, they should have all
crazy.
recused. They don't do this anymore, do they? They just don't. They don't recuse. And I was in audit for years. That was my background. Corporate overseas, done audits around the world. If you have even an appearance of a conflict of interest, you're supposed to recuse, and we did. And we did. If your cousin happened to be at this company or whatever it was, even remote, you're not going to do that audit. We don't want to do the work and have it all thrown out because you've got some sort of even appearance of a conflict of interest.
They
But the
didn't care.
DOJ, they've got a different set of rules, and it should be more stringent. Instead, it's there's nothing. And what you just said there, it's so angry for the rest of us to hear these stories. It's outrageous. The abuse that they and the terror that they put you guys through, and the whole country, quite frankly. They wanted to show us, if you stand up to this communist regime, we're throwing you in prison. You may be lucky to be alive, because as you know, 4 Trump supporters died that day as well. It was so disgusting. I really hope they get to the bottom of this. I pray that
I hope they
you know
gut the FBI needs to be gutted out completely from the top to the bottom. I know we got Cash Patel in there. I know we got Bongino now, and I hope they go and fire some of these other people that have been in there for a long time, because they need to go. We need fresh ideas. We need fresh people in there. We need true conservatives in there that are willing to
yeah,
do the right thing, follow the evidence. What they
yeah,
did under the DOJ and the FBI under Biden was find who they didn't like, then find yes men, because I know this because I've talked to 2 FBI whistleblowers who worked my case, and they told me when they weren't willing to bring up charges on me because there was nothing to bring up charges on, they were pushed aside, and then new rookie cops that were just freshly minted FBI agents with no experience in these terrorist cases, they were yes men, and they did
yeah.
whatever the DOJ wanted, whatever DC said, and they brought charges on us that were bogus, threw me in jail for 4 years. I stayed in solitary confinement for a little over 2 years straight. They didn't do that to anybody else. That's not
Yeah.
easy to do.
No, it's all, and I've heard Stuart Rhodes was on this show recently. He said they tried to get him to say that he was working with President Trump on some sort of overthrow of the government, and they would have given him a lesser plea deal if he started suggesting that this kind of stuff happened. It was outrageous what they did. That's criminal. And they grab these green people, these people that just come in. I've seen it. I saw it in the corporate too. You don't know. Sometimes you come in, you're out of school, you don't know anything, And then somebody tells you to go do something, you do it, you think it's normal. Oh, everybody does this. No, but it's not. Nobody's there. You need somebody strong of integrity to say, no, we don't do that here. And I had that happen to me in my early years in accounting. There was something somebody wanted me to do. I did it, and then another guy stepped in and says, "No, we don't do that. That's not how we do this." And I didn't know. I was young and was just trying to follow orders. That's what they do. It's a technique, I think. You bring in the greenies and get them to freaking do stuff that other people,
Well,
um, you know,
that's why they go after children the way they do the left does. That's why they try to mess with their heads and tell them that they don't need their parents, that they're not really children of their parents, but they're children in the state. It's all about brainwashing and propaganda. It's all about
Mhm.
taking innocence and destroying it. It's about taking God out of everything and
Yeah,
making it to where evil is what's normal and right. So we have to rise above that, and we have to do what's right, and we have to hold those accountable that aren't willing
mm,
to do the right thing. And when people stand up and do the right thing and go to jail, everybody in America should be, doing everything they can to
outraged.
help make sure they get
Well,
their lives back.
as you know, it was the Rasmussen had a poll which was really awesome. It was a year or two after January 6th. 65% of Americans thought it was basically bullshit. It was bogus. And I was really happy and proud of that because we were writing a lot of stuff at Gateway Pundit and elsewhere about you guys and the bullshit cases you were going through and the abuse that they were putting you guys through. And they weren't getting that message from anybody else. There were even a lot of conservative sites stayed away from this. They're the same people now that want to stand up and say, "Oh, we're behind election integrity and yeah, we're behind the January Sixers." But then their acts don't even to this date don't even mirror what they're trying to say to be on the side that's right. It takes a lot of
I mean,
courage to do that, you know?
for 4 years, people only got like a side of, the people were at the DC jail because they let the people at the DC jail, talk about what happened. But all of us that were in prison, like we were threatened every day. Like if you talk to the media, if you do anything like that, they throw you in the hole. I spent so much time in solitary confinement. Most people were trying to kill themselves, after a month or two. And I'm sitting there for 2 years straight, sitting there in a concrete room staring at walls. It'll make you or
Yes.
break you, and
Yeah.
it's crazy. But there's a lot that needs to be talked about because there was a lot of us that got the short end of the stick, that went through the most, that just really haven't even had an opportunity to even talk about what went
Yeah.
on at all.
Yeah, I'm anxious to hear more. The whole thing is sitting in a cell for that long. I've heard Sidney Powell say Weissman did that to these guys with Enron, but and Merrill Lynch in the early 2000s after this Enron deal, put these innocent men in solitary. She said after a week, good men can go crazy, and I can't imagine to be stuck in a cell. I just really don't know. I really have thought I don't know if I could make it. I really do. I don't know. And I'm so grateful, the people like you that have, had to suffer through that are able to, be here today. I was with General Flynn at an event the day that Jim came out with this picture of one of the January Sixers in this cell. It looked like a closet, and it was solitary, and he had a bucket there. And maybe you know who I'm talking about. Kyle is I forgot his name. But Flynn said, I oversaw the prisoners of war in Afghanistan. We didn't treat these people this bad. So the stuff that you guys were going through was, just trying to validate exactly what you're saying. It was beyond outrageous. It was criminal. It was
Yeah,
criminal.
I handed an inmate a copy of a Dinesh D'Souza book, and they threw him in the hole for spreading right wing propaganda. I had a black inmate who was a part of a gang called the Gangster Disciples. He asked me about the Constitution. He didn't really know much about it, so I had someone send me a pocket Constitution in the mail. I gave it to him. I was brought into the warden's office and told that if I was caught handing out right wing extremist propaganda again, that they would strip all my, what little rights I did have away and throw me in there and forget about me, in a deeper, darker hole, So it's,
Mm.
they put us through all types of physical, mental torture. I was told that if I kept going to work by some of the black COs, that they were going to put hard drives of child porn in my cell and blame me for that, and that way I could never get out of jail, even if Trump did win. And try to, so it was stuff like that that would happen, and you just had to know that you couldn't let it get to your head, and you just had to, I had to quit my job that I had in prison, and just sit in my room because I was too paranoid to leave. So I just, and that was after I got out of solitary confinement, and it forced me to put myself back in a cell on my own, just because I was too scared to leave out of there, because I didn't want that to ever happen. Who wants that? That's just insane. So
Yeah.
it's, yeah.
Somebody, as you're talking through this, somebody needs to sit from the FBI, a team, a huge team, needs to sit down with every January 6er and go through their story and the abuse that they suffered. And there needs to be an incredible investigation and prosecution of everybody involved. The stories I'm hearing about the prison system, I had no idea it was so broke. Now I'm wondering how many people are in there that even should be,
No, there's
after.
so many of the people who shouldn't. I've got lists, and I'm dedicating my life to these individuals and make sure these people have been, can go home, because we only had to go through this for 4 years. I've met guys who've been in prison right now since '93 for things they did not do. Because, in prison, when you get somewhere, people have to, if you want to be able to walk the yard, if you want to be able to move around the compound without fear of being stabbed or killed, you've got to show your paperwork. You got to show that you're not a child molester, that you're not a snitch, that you didn't take any cooperation agreement, that you've never, anything like that. So, that all has to be proven just to the inmates, just to keep your life while you're
Yeah.
there. And so I got to see people's paperwork all the time. And you get to see what judges said, and you get to see what prosecutors said, and you get to see how fat and lazy these FBI agents are, these prosecutors and these judges, and just how much they don't care about human life. And they throw people in jail because a conviction is another notch on their belt. It helps them get paid. It keeps their jobs in place, keeps them secured and happy at home. Their wives loving them, their kids loving them and calling them a hero. But meanwhile, what they do is they just throw innocent people in prison while all the bad people are still out there raping and killing.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. I've got one guy who's reached out to me because he saw me writing about Andrew Weissman from the Russia collusion sham. And quite frankly, I believe he was probably behind January 6th as well. I mean, there's a lot of this story that just looks like a setup and a lot of lies, a lot of people put away for crimes they didn't commit. This guy, Mike Sessa, was in New York in the early or in the 90s. He was part of the mob, got thrown in prison for murder. He's been in prison 33 years. Weissman, in a couple cases now, information he sent me, has withheld evidence from the courts. He's you know, these guys are put in prison like Mike, who the truth wasn't they weren't the truth wasn't in front of the judges. Other judges have since condemned Weissman for his work, but he still sits in prison after 33 years. So yeah, there's a lot of people that we need to help to get out of there. You're absolutely right. I see Trump over the weekend. You see that he appointed this one lady now head of pardons. I don't know if you
Yeah, I don't
saw
know
that.
much about her. I mean, like I said, I've been in jail for the last 4 years, so I don't really know about anything that's happened or other people that have gone through this same similar thing. I don't know anybody's stories other than just, me, Enrique, Ethan, and Dominic and Zach. That's kind of the limit of what I knew from my family, knowing what was going on there. But all this other stuff that's been going on, I'm still trying to catch up on. It's a
Sure.
stimulation overload because I've gone from, so much stimulation working the media to being thrown in a hole by yourself for years, that and now it's like overload, and I'm trying
Yeah.
to just find my place again.
Well, Joe, to me, you're a hero. Never should have happened to you. It's an outrage what's happened. The whole election, I've written 3 books on the election steal. You can see them behind me. Trump's actually given me some compliments on the books, as well as Rudy, Roger Stone, and others. So I believe absolutely the election never should have been certified. My background's, like I said, auditing. I never would have certified this election. And you guys were right. You guys were right to stand up against this stuff. And yeah, no doubt in my mind at all. And that's really the big issue too. Are we ever going to get back to the 2020 election and look at all the shenanigans that happened there and really hold some people accountable there too? Instead, the narrative was pushed on January 6th. I think it was an op. I would suspect you believe the same. to take the focus off the election. Let's focus it on Trump people and like propaganda, push this through this corrupt media that you guys are the bad guys, not the people that certified these elections that shouldn't have been certified. So I don't know. What are your thoughts, final thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was all a psyop. It was all they wanted to see, the left, they like to poke and prod and see what they can get away with. It's the same thing when you live in a little base out in Afghanistan. The Taliban will come up and push your perimeters, and they want to see what they can get away with. And then, it's like they say, give your enemy an inch, they'll take a mile. Uh, that's what they did. They've been trying for years to see what they can get away with incrementally, small little bits. It's like the frog in the pot of water, the temperature slowly being turned up, and they were able to finally push and do it. And now they know they can successfully do it. And that's why it's so important to make sure that this Trump agenda is passed over these next 4 years, and that the people around him are actually going to do what is needed to save America, not like this first term he had where there were so many snakes in the grass and people around him that said they were going to be there to help, but all they did was stab him in the back. We need to take advantage of these 4 years. We need to save America while we can, because these people already have the playbook. They've got it. They've written the book. They know how to steal the election. They know how to use the propaganda to brainwash the masses, the stupid people out there that believe anything they say. And if we don't get it done in these first 2 years, midterms come around, it can go right back to hell. It's not over yet. The war is not won. We've won a battle, a big battle at that, but there's a lot more to go to save this country to its entirety. And there's still bad people out there. There's still communists embedded within our government, still trying to infiltrate and do actual subversive acts against the country. I was court-martialed while I was in prison, didn't even know about it, for subversive acts against the United States, and had all my military rights stripped of me. I didn't get a pardon, so I don't get my rights back. I only had my sentence commuted. So I'm hoping that people will see these interviews that I do, and someone in the Trump administration will talk to the president and go, hey, people like Joe Biggs and Zachary Real and Stuart Rhodes need their rights back. They need their military benefits back, because that's how we took care of our families. That's how we provided for our families. That's how I'm able to go to the hospital and get the mental help that I need. I've been through years in combat, and then I go through this. It's not easy to deal with this kind of traumatic psychological warfare on your mind. So I need help. I need to deal with stuff, and I don't have that ability right now.
Mm. Well, Joe, yeah, you kind of left me speechless there. There's a lot of people behind you. Um, you know, this has been a horrible situation for the entire country. We've got to bring these people, get them accountable. We got to help people like you. There's a lot of work for us to do. I think that's the thing. Trump stood up, said, fight, 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 while you're in prison. And we got to fight. We got to fight for people like you, as well as for this country, as well as for Trump, as well as to get the criminals, the real criminals, put behind bars.
Yeah, I just need people to go to my gifts and go and help. I can't get a job.
Yeah.
I can't even go take my daughter to a field trip because I can't pass a background check. I can barely even drive up to pick her up. I mean, that's still kind of iffy, So like, I just want to be a dad again, and I don't, I'm home and I'm thankful for it, but I still feel like my hands are tied behind my back, and I'm in a wind tunnel with no way to do anything. So, if people can go to freejoebigs.com and donate and help us, that's something that, would mean a lot. Doesn't have to be a lot, but it's not going to buy stupid stuff. I tell you that. It's helping with, to get medication I need, and it's to help just get by until hopefully we do get these pardons, and then I can get back to working again, and just, like I said, having a normal life.
Amen. God bless you, man. Freejoebigs.com. That's two G's, right? In Biggs, Biggs. So,
Yep.
Joe, honor to have you. Thanks so much for being here. We'll get you back soon as you like. And there's a lot more to talk about, and happy to do so at any time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. God bless. We'll be back tomorrow with another great show. God bless these January Sixers and all they went through. Never again should this happen in our country. We'll see you then.